Hello, welcome back to Weekly Wildlife Wisdom. As always, I am your host, Zero Yeti. Today we are going to be starting off with the greater or American rhea, which is the largest flightless bird native to the Americas. You also may have noticed we have talked about the lesser rhea in previous videos. The greater rhea uh, lives throughout Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay, where it inhabits a variety of open areas such as grassland, savanna, and wetlands. At around 5 feet tall and 60 pounds, they are quite robust. During the non-breeding season, they will form flocks of between 10 and 100 individuals, and when in flocks, they tend to be less vigilant, but fairly aggressive. When chased, they flee in a unique zigzag pattern, alternating raising one wing and then the other. This allows them to be able to turn more efficiently using aerodynamics. These flocks break up in the winter time for breeding season. Males are simultaneously polygamous and females are serially polyandrous. In practice, this means that females will move around during the breeding season, mating with one male and depositing their eggs with that male before leaving him and mating with another male. Males, on the other hand, are sedentary, attending the nests and taking care of the incubation and hatchlings all on their own. Recent evidence has shown that some males will pair up and raise and incubate their eggs together. Each nest can end up with upwards of 20 individual eggs laid by multiple females. A small population of greater rhea has recently been established in Germany, after 3 pairs escaped from a farm in Salzwig-Holstein during the summer of 2000. Since then, their population has increased to around 100 individuals. These rheas are legally protected by Germany in a similar way to native species, and in its new home, the rhea is considered a generally beneficial species inhabiting some of the niches of long-extinct animals from the Ice Age. Next up is the Highland, which is a Scottish breed of rustic cattle that originated in the Scottish Highlands. They are also found throughout the Outer Hebrides Islands of Scotland. They have long horns and long, thick, shaggy coats. They are a hardy breed, able to withstand intertemperate conditions throughout the region. The Highland cattle are thought to descend from the aurochs, which were tamed by Neolithic farmers throughout the British Isles in the 2nd millennium BCE. We should probably cover the aurochs soon. The 1885 Herd Book of Britain describes 2 distinct types of Highland cattle. One was the West Highland, or the Kyloe, which lived mostly in the Outer Hebrides Island. These cattle tended to be smaller, have thick black coats, and longer hair. They were named for the practice of relocating them, where the kyles are narrow straits of water, and the cattle were driven across these straits of water to get to market. The other type was the mainland. These tended to be larger because of their richer pastures, and they came in a variety of colors, but mostly brown and red. These types have now been crossbred so much there is no distinct difference, and since the early 20th century, breeding stock has now been exported to many parts of the world, particularly Australia, New Zealand, and North America, where there is now estimated to be 15,000 Scottish Highland throughout the world. Next up is the ocellated dragonet, also known as the scooter blenny and the scooter dragonet, is a species of tropical marine fish in the family Chilonymmidae. It's native to the southwest Pacific Ocean, from southern Japan to the Marquesian Islands, where they inhabit shallow tropical waters, usually sandy lagoons or rocky reefs, where they tend to live in loose congregations of several individuals. Despite congregating together, they do not exhibit schooling behavior or other forms of social cooperation. They are a diurnal species which spends much of their time searching the reef for plankton, mysis, copepods, and other microorganisms on which they feed upon. Next up is the giant Japanese salamander, which is a species of salamander that is endemic to the islands of Japan, where it is also known as the ocean shoo, literally meaning giant pepperfish. At 5 feet long and over 50 pounds, it is the 3rd largest amphibian on Earth, being only surpassed by its mainland cousins, the Chinese and South Chinese giant salamanders. The Japanese giant salamander can be distinguished from their Chinese relatives by the arrangement of tubercles on the head and throat and their distinctive skin folds that, much like a hellbender skin folds, aid in epidermal gas exchange, which better allow the amphibians to breathe underwater. The Japanese giant salamander is restricted to streams with clear, cool water, and due to its large size and lack of gills, is confined to where oxygen is abundant. They are almost entirely aquatic and almost entirely nocturnal, spending their nights hunting fish, insects, crustaceans, and other amphibians. It has a strong presence in Japanese folklore and is thought to be the inspiration for the legend of the kappa. Unfortunately, due to the reliance on cold and clean waterways, it is particularly vulnerable to both pollution and climate change, and the wild population has been in steady decline for about the past 3 decades. H. bicorus, also known as Hyomnospolis coronatus, is a mantis from the tropical forests of Southeast Asia. It is known by various common names, including the walking flower mantis or the orchid mantis, and it is also one of several species known as the flower mantids due to their resemblance and behavior to orchids. This species is characterized by its brilliant coloring and structurally defined adaptations for its camouflage. They have 4 walking legs that resemble flower petals, and the toothed front pair is used like other mantises for grasping prey, such as butterflies, moths, flies, and bees. H. coronatus shows some of the most pronounced sexual size dimorphism of any species of mantis, with males being less than half the size of the females. The female predatory selection is likely the driving force behind this development. Due to prior development of the camouflage, female mantises implement ambush predation, which allow them to hunt pollinating insects without having to wait to develop their unique coloring. Also somewhat unique around the mantids, the orchid mantis shows parental care, with the females guarding their eggs until the babies hatch. Next up is the American paddlefish, which is a smooth-skinned freshwater fish commonly called the paddlefish, the Mississippi paddlefish, the spoon-billed cat, or the spoonbill. It is the only living species of the paddlefish family, Polydontidae, which can be found via fossil remains as far back as the Cretaceous period, some 125 million years ago. The American paddlefish is a migratory species native to the Mississippi River basin and has been known to move more than 2,000 miles throughout the river systems. They also have the ability to move through brackish water where fresh and salt water mixes together. Like its Chinese counterpart, the American paddlefish is a highly derived fish and has evolved with adaptations such as filter feeding. Its rostrum and cranium are covered with tens of thousands of sensory electroreceptors for locating swarms of zooplankton, which is their primary food source. With adults reaching lengths of upwards of 6 feet and weights of around 100 to 200 pounds, they are a popular, albeit unusual, sport fish, and as such have been introduced throughout Europe, Asia, and Cuba, which they are also farmed for their caviar. And our extinct animal of the week is Titanus, which is an extinct species of flightless terror bird that inhabited North America during the early Pleistocene to early Pleistocene epochs. Standing around 8 feet tall, the generic name Titanus refers to the Titans, ancient Greek gods that preceded the Olympians. This is an allusion to the bird's titanic size. In life, Titanus would have weighed over 300 pounds, but had long, agile legs and 3-toed feet with long talons. It could undoubtedly run at high speeds when hunting, most likely using its large axe-like beak to deliver swift, powerful slashing strikes to its prey's head and neck. As a pursuit predator, it was relatively unchallenged in its niche, surviving throughout North and Central America from 5 million years ago to around 15,000 years ago. This doesn't mean they didn't struggle, however, as there is evidence that similar to their fellow pursuit predators, such as the cheetah, they routinely had to defend kills from other predators, such as packs of canines, prides of felines, and in Titanus's case, even giant short-faced bears. This constant pressure, mixed with changing climate and new competition from humans, eventually led to this astonishing avian's extinction. As always, take care to my guys, gals, non-binary pals.